You know, if you're thinking it's a 60-minute session, 20% would be 12 minutes of that hour-long, academic setting. Well, not just taking 12 minutes out of the session to stand up and move around, but also being able to work on a homework lesson as a group or a learning lesson as a group and moving. Great. Yes. Yes, and we also, on the Move More After School NC website, have a place if you have success stories that you'd like to share. We'd love to hear that. I think it's very helpful for others to hear what has been done in the classroom and how you can use that in your setting as well. And I always emphasize that energizers and physical activity, it's not just great for your physical body, it's great for the brain. And especially at that age, children learn so much better when they're moving and they have time to get their jigglies out. I like to call it just their wigglies. So, yeah. Great, thank you.
We wanted to take a few minutes for discussion today because Erin discussed during the slideshow this morning about the new health course and wanted to have some conversation about the development of that course. And if those of you have already been working on it at the local level, or if there would be interest in perhaps a group of you working together to create a course so that it doesn't fall back on each of your individual campuses to do that, because I think we could probably work collectively and come up with an outstanding template that would benefit your work, since I'm sure we're all strapped for time and resources in our organization. So just some immediate reactions, and again, I'll kind of float around the room so we can get some good discussion. You want to share thoughts on coming together for group development? Rosa.
I'm all for it.
Okay.
She's trying to do it right now. I'm trying to do it right now, and I don't have, I would love it. I mean, this is going to be a big part of it.
Mm-hmm.
We're already developing ours. Well, then we take hers and we go with it. Whatever she says, whatever the queen.
We're working on ours too.
Okay, well, that's okay. I get it.
Okay. So maybe we can just make sure we all have each other's contact information and perhaps work with Kara as well, and have a few volunteers come together that could help provide this as a resource for all of you. Does that sound good? Question, comment?
I need to back up a little bit and have a little bit of an explanation of how this is different from 153.
And this is a blend of two courses that I'm going to ask Erin to speak to.
We'd have to pull the course descriptions to look at it a little bit more, and I don't know that I have them exactly in front of me, but it is very similar in some ways to 153. Like, some of the components are the same, health, safety, and nutrition aspects, but 153 covers basically birth to 8 and stops there more or less, and in some cases, some of you probably stop a little earlier than that. So, and this really picks up 5 to adolescence. So it really focuses on some things that you wouldn't probably get into as much, and not in depth of school age that you would be able to do in 153. So that's really the primary difference. Although this goes into some nutritional, like cooking activity things, which you may not do as much in 153. Unless you have the lab part. Some of you do that within the 153A class. Let's see, I think there's a, from the earlier slide.
This is all new to me. Is it ever appropriate, and what is the new, I can't think, I don't know the number for the new course.
158 is the new.
Would it ever be appropriate that the 153 and the 158 could substitute for each other?
In the school age care certificate, it would only be the 158. And in the associate degree, you have to teach 153 in the early childhood degree. You You could have it as an elective in like the degree. So you'd have to teach 153, and 158 could be an elective option if they wanted to take that. We're making 158 a course in our school age degree, because if they've come through the school age certificate, they'll have it, so it'll be in the school age degree. But you can't substitute. 153 is a core course in the early childhood degree, and you can't substitute a core course. 158 is a core course in the school age care certificate, so you can't substitute a core course. So does that answer your question? Yeah.
So you're going to have 153 and 158 in your degree?
In our early childhood, it's a 153 is required, 158 is an elective that we're allowed.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Okay, so we will be, again, gathering contact information and pulling together a small group that can work on that and be in touch. Question, would it be helpful to have a listserv of some sorts for you all for sharing information, or we can just email this out to you? I did get a response back from Jennifer that I wanted to share with you in response to the questions that were raised during her presentation this morning, and let me just flash these up. So she's referencing the person who mentioned about seeing more full text. Yes, there's a website here that you can email with feedback on that topic, and I just wanted to flash it up since it's kind of a lengthy website. So it's this to share any feedback you have on the modules, rcmods@researchconnections.org. I'm sure that person is listed on their website as well, but Jennifer had checked into that. And then she's noting here, let me just scroll down so you can see that better. Regarding the question on permission to use the modules, she's saying she found it kind of interwoven throughout the site. She did highlight this one particular link that has more specific language, but she's going to go back to their staff and try to get something a little bit more clear that you could have at your fingertips. So again, we can work on just sending this out via an email list, or if you all would like something more like a listserv, we can create that too, so we can have those discussions as we move forward. Let's do this. We are about 5 minutes ahead of schedule. Let's take a quick break, and then we're going to come back here, and for the last hour, we've got some group discussion set up. I'm going to talk about what NCCAP and the After School Professional Development's next steps are, and we're going to have you discuss with us what kind of resources we can create that would be helpful for your work, and some further discussion as well. So 5-minute break, meet back in here, and we'll be adjourning this session at 2:45 right before Barbara leads the competencies workshop at 3. We are going to spend a few minutes. I just want to go over our vision for next steps, and our vision meaning the Center for After School Programs and our After School Professional Development Work Group. And then I think that will feed into setting you up nicely for some table discussions that can help inform our work. So from our standpoint, there's a few areas that we're going to be working on in the coming years, and that is connecting to funding incentives, marketing, assessments on the competencies, training on the database, and continued work and engagement with the community college system. So along those lines of marketing, I would like to see the website that I shared, the online centralized database, to be something that could be beneficial for your campuses, and again, connecting offline about who that person would be and getting that person in touch with us so we can start having some trainings and webinars so you can begin populating the system with your school-age coursework. I think that would be really exciting for after-school practitioners to know that colleges are going to be using the site. We have a general session opportunity. I think it's going to be at breakfast in the morning, but I was going to share some announcements and point providers to that direction, have them bookmark that website so that they're getting in the habit of going there and regularly checking out what's coming down the pipeline for trainings. We also want to, with the After School Professional Development Work Group, do a marketing campaign because we recognize that all providers, we can't just have it on that website and expect them to know about it and know what it means, but leading a marketing campaign that will educate after-school practitioners about the new school-age care certificate, how it differs from what local offerings may have looked like, what it means for the field, how they can bring that in for CEUs for their certification, and so on and so forth. So we're working on that right now. We have what we call after-school liaisons operating in counties across the state. I hear there's a game going on at the end of the hall. I think there's a workshop that has moved outside, so apologize for the noise. We may call on Kara to do an Energizer if we need to in a minute. But we have these local after-school liaisons, which are basically point persons that NCCAP works with as affiliates of ours to educate providers about goings-on at the state level. And so that's one avenue we'll be exploring, working with those liaisons so that they can educate after-school practitioners in their communities about the school-age care certificate. And we'd love to get your feedback and your thoughts on what a marketing campaign would look like, how you could maybe help us or point us in the right direction. So stay on the lookout for that. We would like to explore having the entire certificate online. I think that would be exciting, and I believe there are a couple of campuses out there that are working on that and would be a great model for us with the continued travel restrictions and the budget outlook. Having something like this online would be powerful and would enable practitioners that maybe if it's not available at their local campus to still get that ongoing education. Incentivizing, this is something we've talked on and off over the course of the day. Venetia Malloy, of course, with the Department of Juvenile Justice. She's wearing two hats. She's the co-chair of our professional development work group, but she's also on our after-school funders work group, which I didn't really get to explain yet. But our after-school funders group, which is led by NCCAP, is composed of all of the state agencies that fund after school. So we have the Department of Public Instruction representing the 21st Century Community Learning Centers, representing supplemental education services, the dropout prevention grants, which a lot of those go to after-school programs, Department of Juvenile Justice, Department of Health and Human Services, so some of Laura Hewitt's colleagues representing the Division of Child Development. And then we have two initiatives out of the Division of Public Health representing teen pregnancy prevention funding, as well as summer food service programming, which also provides funding for snacks and meals throughout the school year, not just for the summer. And with that being said, I wanted to point out another resource that's in your larger conference bag of materials, and that's an after-school funding streams overview. So what we tried to do, recognizing it can be difficult for providers to navigate the shifting goals and priorities of the state agencies, is do an annual piece that would sort of pull together one-pagers or two-pagers on all of those funding streams, have the deadlines, have the goals, have the point person that you can contact for more information. And so we do have this current year available in your packets. Those of you who are staying on through the conference tomorrow, we're having a funders breakfast in the morning that's not only the state agencies, but also private funders of after school like JCPenney and Time Warner Cable, and they're going to come and talk about their funding opportunities too, so I think that will be an exciting addition. But back to that funders group of ours, so we're really charging them with looking at how they can infuse the competencies, the college coursework into their systems, recognizing that state agencies right now are not in a position where they can necessarily offer those stipends or bonuses and things like that, but we think we can all think creatively about how they can perhaps infuse points into their RFP process. So for programs who are stipulating a professional development budget, who are following the competencies, who have X percentage of staff who are either have attained the school-age care certificate or degree or are working towards that attainment, and have some kind of incentive system built into the review process, and looking along those lines for what kind of incentives we could do in this current economic climate, and then looking long-term down the road for actually having those dollars and incentives in place. We also are working to engage private funders in this process, so we're educating local United Ways, local community foundations, and other key private foundations in the state about the importance of after school, about the importance of having quality after school programs in place, so informing them of our quality work and the great work that you're doing at the community college system, and seeing if we couldn't find some kind of scholarship pool or something like that from the philanthropic community. So that's very much on our agenda for next steps. You'll hear more about this at the 3 o'clock competencies workshop coming up around the corner, but we're going to be building an assessment tool for the competencies, so that's coming down a pipeline in the very near future. And one note for us, I hope